Pete, this is a momentous podcast for us because it is episode number. You ready for it?
What is it?
10.
Oh my!
Episode 10, and 10. We are back, my friend. How you been?
I'm doing all right. I got up in the morning for this.
Yeah.
And it's gonna take. I need a 15-minute wind up, and then I'll be legitimately responsible for what I say.
All right, sounds good. Let's start episode 10 now.
Yeah!
This isn't another fishing podcast. This is another fishing podcast.
Okay, so it's episode 10, and here's something. Something. Did I say something? Whatever.
Something.
It's very early. Not really. I mean, I guess it's early for us. It's all relative. But yeah, we actually went fishing together. Finally, it had been a while, and that was. I got to tell you, dude, it was beyond great to get back in a boat with you, my friend.
It was. It was almost February in Minnesota, and we were in your fancy boat, which is a whole different experience because usually with my boat, I'm assuming the engine's not going to start wherever I've hauled it for the first outing, or at least 20 pulls,
right,
in a rotator cuff issue. So your motor starts right up in sort of a manly way. And
it hadn't started. It hadn't started since like November, which I'll be honest with you, I was like, oh, damn, that's kind of nice, That thing started right up. I mean, I didn't even winterize it.
We just ripped right down the old river, without a worry in the world, other than sort of ice and the occasional log. But it was fantastic because we covered so much ground that day. I realized, looking back at the maps, I'm like, it was like a 15-minute jaunt in that boat. My boat, it would have been cold and it would have been a battle, and dangerous probably.
Yeah, it's we've kind of, it's a new era, I guess. The boat will help us look more professional, but I don't know necessarily that we even want to look that way. So it's a bit of a conundrum.
It's kind of weird, because we started out the day carp fishing with a fancy boat,
Right. And why don't you just kind of explain what our plan was? So we went on pool 2. You had been on pool 2 before. I don't even know if I've ever been on pool 2 until then.
I don't think you have. Yeah. So the upside to pool 2, and we're talking Mississippi, in Minnesota, Mississippi is dammed up, and between the dams they name them pools. So the first pool is essentially downtown Minneapolis. And then the pools continue as you go south down the Mississippi. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5 bordering Minnesota. Can't remember if 5 does. But anyway, we're in pool 2. So below Minneapolis, which is St. Paul essentially, and for some reason the water was open up there. So we thought, well, let's go on up there. There's some water treatment up there that kicks out some warm water.
It's poop water.
And what's that?
Is it poop water?
I guess.
I mean, is that why it's warm? I mean, that's
I don't think so.
What are they doing to our poop so that it's warm coming out of there? Is what I'm.
The creepier part to me is that it's clear with flecks of white flakes in it. You know what I mean? That's the look. It's extra foamy. And it's clear, but it's got literally white snowflakes in a snow globe in it. And I don't understand what that is. And I get conscious of it when my hands are in it. But it's in the entire Mississippi because it's happening the whole way down, I guess. So what are you going to do? And another unique thing about Pool 2 is it's not border water, where border water with the Mississippi is pretty awesome because you get 2 lines and there's no seasons. But essentially that's going on up there in Pool 2. You don't get multiple lines, I believe. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But it's not border water, but the entire pool is a catch and release pool. And I looked into it a little bit, but I don't remember what all the rules was because we just kind of looked up walleye. But was it like that for every species?
Yeah,
I don't think roughfish, obviously, I don't think it matters. But for bass fishing, was that catch and release for all?
I'm so bad, I'm so bad when it comes to seasons here because I don't know. I need to look through that book. There's so many different regulations, and I really have got to. But
for the better, it's getting more complicated. But I think Pool 2 season is open all year. I just don't know what the rules are for catch and release because I'm always catch and releasing, so I don't care.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But I believe there's not any seasons on that stretch of the river. And I'm not talking about sturgeon or, I'm talking about your sort of top 5 Minnesota game fish. I believe it's just no season, catch and release, one line.
Right.
But, what we could have done is come prepared with all the details of Pool 2 and had a DNR official on to explain it to us. But let's just put it out there that there's rules and that people can come up themselves. They can participate.
Well, as we continue on with this journey of podcasting, I think, we'll evolve into just a very well-oiled machine. Right now, we're just kind of like waking up early. It's all relative. This is early for us. And we're just barely, making it through this. So, I mean, here's the exciting part, and I'll talk about this more, but, as we accrue more patrons through Patreon, and they donate to us, they appreciate us, so they donate to us. It's just like an added boost for us to get our shit together, better.
Right. Yep. Everything gets a little bit more professional.
I mean, for instance, I've got now, as you notice, if you're watching our video podcast, which, by the way, you can watch the full video podcast only if you're a patron on Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search Angling Uploaded, and become a patron. So right now, you can see in the video podcast, I have a new sign up, Pete.
There it is.
Live bait. And that's an evolution. Eventually, this whole wall behind me is going to be filled with fishing paraphernalia. Paraphernalia, I don't know if that's the right word. And, beer signs and stuff like that. So we're evolving into a better product. And that's how it's also... sorry,
Well, that was the only thing you caught that entire fishing trip. I brought your live bait sign back to you.
Yeah, and what's funny is this is actually a different live bait sign.
It is?
This is a different live bait sign that I've had, and your live bait sign that you gave back to me is gonna be over on that side.
You're gonna have 2 live bait signs?
I'm going to have 2 live bait signs, but you won't be able to see them in the same shot.
You should have like a dusty rack of old rods and reels, like an up north bait shop that hasn't sold one since 75, but they keep them there so the shop looks full.
Right, and all the lures, the packaging of the lures is completely faded out.
And the glue is coming off, and they've been retaped because the plugs are falling out of their plastic casing.
That's right, and then they're always priced way too high, and that's probably why they're still sitting there.
It's like $7.73, like somebody really thought it through,
Right. For a crankbait that, you'd be lucky to get, $1 off of eBay for, most likely.
And he's praying to God like that's like Smithsonian caliber before he retires, and he can just retire on his antique plugs.
I am kind of amazed.
Those places.
I am kind of amazed at just in general how it seems like more maybe southern Minnesota, how I don't know if it seems to be kind of a phenomenon in like southern Minnesota, the southern half of the state, how there are the most dusty ass bait shops, just raggedy old dusty. Incredible.
They're not getting the foot traffic like Fish Country does,
Right.
Like you see a little uptick. It's a tough way to grind out a living. You have those, like right now you have that time where no one's ice fishing and, nobody's anything fishing unless you're on the river. But if you're away from the river, like those, the only way you can really survive is just having it out of your house or something, On the river, I've seen some amazing places pop up in the river and just not even last a year. Like they buy an old downtown building. It's fabulous. They have beautiful, clean takes, a huge selection, and by the next season, they're gone again, and it drives crazy. Yeah. I will give a plug, though, to, of course, I can't remember the name. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is in Trempealeau, Wisconsin, which is kind of across from Winona. There was a catfish-centric bait shop. I can't remember. I sent you the link.
Wasn't it called Fat Cats or something?
Yes. Yes.
Is that the name of it? Fat Cats? If you send it to me, I'll look at my phone here.
They even have shad in the tanks because it's Wisconsin. But the best part about this, and you don't need to be a cat fisherman to go into this place, trust me, because they cater to every type of fishermen, but I would say half of it is dedicated to big catfishing. And it's beautifully clean. It's got an amazing spot next to this historic hotel. He's got a deck out front that looks over the river. It's like a block from the actual river. Trempealeau is just a little town. One of the best bait shops I have ever been in. And I'll stop in there just to buy. I've stopped in for rods and reels and tackle and live bait, but just to support that whole scene. You know, the guy's amazingly helpful. It's just a fabulous place. So
yeah, I'm looking for it right here.
Look up Trempealeau bait shop.
Yeah,
anything coming up?
I mean, you sent me something, and I just
part of what I had sent you was they have a catfish club up there.
All I'm seeing is just us texting back and forth these ridiculous screenshots of what we've found on Ice Fishing Unfiltered.
It's Fat Cat Bait and Fishing Supply.
Okay.
And it's got 84 reviews on Google with the perfect 5 stars.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And that's how far down the river from you, basically?
Well, it's almost right across from Monona.
Okay, so you're saying Trempealeau, Wisconsin. It's on the Wisconsin side.
Wisconsin. It's north of La Crosse by like a half hour on that side of the river. It's a little bit, even though it's close to Winona, it's kind of a pain to get to because there's no direct bridge to it. But they're right by one of the dams, so they must be in the dam that goes from 4 to 5 or 3 to 4 or whatever that is, you know. Okay. But if you're ever on the Wisconsin side, and you can't find shad obviously in Minnesota. So if you want to fish for catfish with shad, you can go there, and he's got them in the tanks, bullheads in the tanks.
Nice.
He sells bullheads.
That's awesome. Right. Right.
By the way, I still need a good bullhead hole. I'm in Rochester. If somebody can point me to a great place to catch bullheads, I've heard Zumbro has got some great bullhead fishing for bait purposes. I can't find them in any consistent way. It's driving me crazy. You know, do you have a good bullhead hole?
Yeah. Are you allowed to just go and catch a bullhead and then use it for bait? I mean, you got to be so careful. Like, I
think so. Yeah, why not?
Okay, then I will freely admit it that, yeah, I do.
And you know, there's a thing with catfishermen too, where they swear by the bullhead that are caught in the same place you're catching the cats. Meaning, if you bring them from a different place, there seems to be a bad rub on those bullheads.
Really?
Like they're not as effective for some reason.
How can that be?
I don't know. I've heard that before from multiple people.
This sounds like QAnon or something.
Mm-hmm. If they catch them locally, they feel better about their effectiveness, you know.
Huh. No, I've got a bullhead. I've got a bullhead secret spot in Eagan, Minnesota. Right in my brother's neighborhood. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of little lakes over there full of bullheads. But I can't drive to the cities. I need something I can, you know, either on my way to catfishing or someplace I can be there in 15 minutes and then home. You know how bullheads work.
Yeah, for sure.
In Owatonna, I had a great place. It was like a little pond, like it was a city park. I'm like, all right. And they're all exactly the right size. If you've never fished with bullheads, and by the way, I'm on a catfish quest this summer, Vision Quest.
What was the main song from that movie, Vision Quest? This is for everybody that's in their 40s that would know what the hell we're talking about.
No one's gonna have it. No, that was Karate Kid, wasn't it? You're the best around.
No one's ever gonna keep you down. You're the best. That's Karate Kid.
Watch Cobra Kai, by the way.
I've gotten into 3 episodes.
Okay.
And I'm just like, the first 3 episodes of it, I was just like feeling so bad for Johnny. For Johnny. I'm like, this poor guy. I mean, you can tell he's like kind of a racist, and he's like all these things. He's kind of like politically incorrect. But you can tell there's a heart. Yeah, there's a heart in there, because they want the people making the movie or the show are like they want you to root for the guy, you know.
Oh, you just wait.
Okay, so I'm feeling. I mean, I love it because it's 80s. It's like, you know,
he's driving around in his Trans Am.
I mean, it's out of control. It's a bit much. I mean, I don't watch that much television anymore, Pete. So when I watch shows like that, I just critique them. Like I'm like, this is so over the top. Of course, it's a TV show.
That's the best part about it. It's almost like a tabloid television show. Like, you couldn't make, but at the same time, it's done well, and everybody's like, there's good acting in it. But it's like this weird sort of overdone it's hard to explain.
You know what's nuts? When I was watching that, you could tell that that he hasn't been acting in a while, so he's a little iffy, and he probably gets better with the shows with each episode. But Ralph Macchio comes out of the gate, dude, swinging like. He's a solid actor, dude. Yeah. Like, seriously, that's how I was watching it. I'm like, that guy, dude, He starred in Artie Lang's Beer League. Remember that? Right, yeah.
But the funny part, though, is you can tell that guy, Ralph Macchio, has not done a roundhouse kick in 30 years. So later he starts fighting, sort of, but you can tell they're getting the camera angles in a way where it's like, he can't get his leg any higher than me. And he looks like such a softie. And
I'm sure it's heavily like, they've got the what do you call them? The stunt doubles and stuff. Like,
yeah. And I love when they cut back to original Karate Kid footage.
Oh, it's great.
And then, like, he keeps bringing up this thing where he's like, I got pushed off a mountain on my bike. You remember that scene where he got pushed?
Yeah, I know. And then it flashes back.
Yeah. And then his kids were like, you said it was a mountain. It wasn't just a hill. He's like, whatever. Like the story's getting bigger over time.
Yeah. That's pretty great.
But that show first debuted on YouTube.
Did it really?
Yeah, that was a YouTube series. They did series 1 on YouTube, and then Netflix bought it, so you can watch it for free on YouTube. That was like the first show that you could do that.
Okay, all right.
Kind of cool.
Very
We're
cool.
Focused. So, and that brings us around to carp. We were fishing for carp, and carp is an Asian tradition.
It's all right. Tangents.
Okinawa.
Yes. Yeah. So what? Anyway. So basically, yeah. So we started out. We knew that. So Pool 2 was open. Pool 2 on the Mississippi River. And so we decided, okay, first off, I really wanted to get my boat out because I know that I haven't winterized it. I had these ideas that, we went out for lake sturgeon on the St. Croix, and which was like in the end of, what was that, the beginning of November or middle of November?
Middle of November. We went out at ice in, and then we went out again at ice out.
Well, yeah, like we had people on the sturgeon Facebook page like giving us shit because like they're like, you're going out, like, is because they thought it was locked up, and actually there was a place that it was open they were able to get to. But so my point is, I haven't had my boat in since then, and I had it pretty much full of gas, and I didn't treat the gas, and I'm like freaking out. I'm kind of like, God, I got to get that boat in. I'm so worried about this new boat of mine and the motor and everything, and I didn't winterize it because I thought I'd be taking it out December, January. Well, with work and crazy cold, that was impossible. But finally, we get it out. I actually treat the gas, so I'm feeling better. Get it out, starts immediately, and one of the great. I was so full of just positive vibes, dude. Like, at first getting there, you may have been able to tell I was a bit anxious, because I was like, number one, I'm pulling this boat with a 95 Chevy Silverado pickup truck,
through a metro area.
Metro area. So there's a little bit of, anxiety because of that, but just the fact that my wife can attest to this, I can be such an asshole when I'm getting ready to fish. Like, I get so like focused and like gotta get because I'm so excited.
It was magnified by like 500% because now you've got new boat, like, okay, new landing. How do I get into this landing? There's ice on the edge of the landing. There's rocks. You're being hyper careful. You've got extra to-do list with the boat besides the fishing. And for me, this is like a new thing for me where I just show up with a fishing pole and a tackle box. And jump in your boat and go fishing. It's so easy when you have your boat with you. I'm like, wow, this is so simple, So I kind of sit back and admire the stressful checklist. Like for me, it was always, okay, my taillights aren't working and my engine's not going to start. And if it does start, this is eventually going to die. And do I have enough battery power in my trolling motor battery? And if that dies, do I have enough battery power in my battery that runs everything else in my boat? It's like this constant, if it goes wrong, I'm always going upstream in the Mississippi because I don't trust going downstream. I don't think I've ever went downstream with my boat in any scenario.
I think that's just a weird, I don't know what I don't don't know
because
what
if your boat dies, you can float back to the landing. You know?
Well, right, but how far up river are you going to go? That's still going to take a long time, you know.
I've done it before. I've had to float back for 6 hours using the Minn Kota just to.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think that's safe, you know, and especially if you have an older boat or if you have a kayak or something. I mean, I never go downstream with my kayak. I'm always going upstream, but. No, I hear what you're saying, but yeah, it's for us, you know, it's kind of surreal to, you know, kind of be in I mean, it's a new boat. It's a 2021. I'll be honest with you. Especially last year, wasn't thinking I'd be able to afford this boat, and I've been very fortunate. And it's just kind of like to get into the boat. And you have all these kind of creature comforts, and I'm like, and you know, once I got in the boat, we're in the boat and we're going upstream. I was just like, oh my god, this is so freaking nice, you know. Like
I'm usually exhausted from fishing in my boat just because I'm never completely comfortable, you know. It's kind of comfortable, but like your boat is like you're sitting in your living room, you know. Get that windshield on. We're cruising, you know. We're like, look at all this. It's like we're Lewis and Clark, you know, heading up the Mississippi River.
I mean, in style.
We're fishing next to a homeless camp.
Eat your heart out, Lewis and Clark.
It was great. And by the way, we did not catch any fish, and this is incredibly early in the season, so
that's really our excuse.
There's no fish in that river that's doing something predictable. You know, you can kind of look around, and I did have some bites, I would like to say. We did see some people catch, you know, some bass and a big pike. But for the most part, it was just kind of, I don't know. That first day the ice goes out, you just kind of, I think the whole point of it was just to be out there, though.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, you know, when I'm filming Major League Fishing, I hear this all the time. The commentators, when I'm doing a live broadcast, you know, for the Bass Pro Tour, I'm hearing the commentators. They're always talking about how there's no what am I trying to say?
Substitute for being on the water.
Thank you.
Which, in my case, has not really helped because I probably went out fishing 50% of the time and never caught a single fish. Well, it's true. Yeah,
I mean, it's the thing is that, and I'll give an example why I believe this to be true, is that, you know, if you're, okay, so we didn't really, we had an idea, okay, we're going to go for rough fish because, you know, you had an area you were comfortable with, you've caught them good there before, and we're not above catching rough fish. Like I mean, I love catching all fish.
Not
so
above
let's it's awesome. That's how Pete and I got our start, and we I love catching everything. So let's do this, you know. So we found it to be like it was more of a sure thing going on a body of water that we don't have a whole lot of experience with. So, but doing that, going up there, and then not catching anything. And, like, you know, I mean, there was a ton of shad around. I mean, amazing balls of shad, like, everywhere.
Which,
not to mention bald eagles everywhere. I've never seen so many bald eagles, I don't think.
Not to get you off track, but I immediately called when I got back about my using my bait nets.
Yeah.
So I bought a bait net, and the first year it was legal, the second year it wasn't. But they're making it impossible, so I can use it on the Croy and the Mississippi and the Minnesota, but I couldn't even. They're not even putting out the application till like May, you know.
Huh.
So I can't start using it till then. But I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to be throwing those cast nets for shad. You know, you're supposed to use whatever you catch to fish in that river, but what a great way to head out and then catch your own bait.
So you're saying you actually, though, you have to have a you have to have a permit.
You have to have a permit and pass a test. I think it's mostly because of invasive species.
Right.
But back to your point about there's no substitute for being on the water. I think a huge part of why that's true is that is dumb luck. So it isn't just the fact that you walk into a situation where you're catching fish, you know, for even if it wasn't a species you targeted, but every time you go out, you learn something. Like you you run into a certain fish on a certain type of day in a certain situation and a certain point on the calendar. And this is so true with like old timers that fish the Mississippi. They have this calendar built in their head of memories, and I never forget a spot I've caught a fish or what the scenario was, you know. And then you have this library that keeps expanding in your brain that you go back to, you know.
That's right.
And you'd never be able to in a lifetime. You can't learn, 10% of the opportunities, at least around us, because there's way too many to really,
Right.
ever experience it all.
Right.
But you get this sort of to-do list of, all right, it's this time of year. This is what the weather's like. This is what I have the best chance of catching, maybe 2 or 3 species, and then you just kind of pick one of your best memories and go back to it,
Yeah, I mean, when I say, there's no substitute for time on the water, most of why I say that is because of what you just said. Because the more time you get out on the water, the more your chances for lucking out. Like a lot of times, just running into situations that are just exactly right, just dumb luck, where it's
Right.
like, oh, that's fun. You just bump into something kind of like, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that was happening. Interesting.
And even,
putting that in the notebook in my head.
And even though we didn't catch any fish, now we have that 3 or 4 mile stretch of river that we cruised in our head, and we know exactly where we would fish.
Right. I mean,
now the next time you go back out there, you're like, oh, here's A, B, C, D. These all have potential. Let's go check them out again. We're not like going in blind and spending the first half of the day sort of feeling our way around,
Right.
So now we're going back out there, bold, fast and furious.
And the other thing too is, you get to you see. So we ran into a guy that was, remember that he was using he had this old boat. It was beautiful to see this old boat. He's fished the hell out of this thing for years, and he had his panoptics out.
We're just sitting there silently, and then that guy pipes up and goes, "My wife thinks I'm crazy." Remember?
Yeah,
that's the first thing he said.
That's the funny thing too. There's fishermen that don't ever want to see another fisherman out.
Right.
And then there's fishermen that are like, I need to talk to people. I need to. This is kind of a social thing for me too. Or he's just been locked up, because of COVID or something.
Yeah,
but
or he needs to break the near boat tension. You know what I mean? Like, how it is when a boat sort of quietly approaches. Like, is he getting closer? I can't tell if he's getting closer. And then all of a sudden you're like 20 yards away, and then you're sort of giving him the corner of the eye or the sunglasses. Don't move your face, just your eyes, and see what he's doing. What are they using? What are they? And then that tension just builds and builds and builds. And some people want to break it down. And then some people want to wait till your boats get too close, and then they freak out like, ah!
It's very tension filled, Like we were around 4 people, 3 people or something, and we're all kind of fishing this one area. And we're kind of close to each other. You could see maybe that day how I was kind of like, I was trying to give people room, but I also wanted to get ahead of these guys. And I'm like, you're always kind of like, is it about to get real here? And is there going to be some words exchanged,
right.
Or is everybody just going to put on a happy face and no problem? And in the back of their heads are like, and kind of, I fall in this category a lot of times. I'm like, I'd rather you not be here. This would be a better thing if you were not here.
The size of the hole we were fishing kind of donated to the fact you had to be stacked up like dominoes, And honestly, too, almost everyone we talked to was just being super friendly out there. I think everyone was just happy.
Yeah, they were. But it is, you bring up a great point. Like, I always, when you're fishing near someone, you're always like, what are they, what's going through their mind? Are they happy that there's someone that maybe they can talk to next to them while they fish, or are they like, yeah, I wish you weren't here right now?
And then the boat's got, the boat that catches a fish, there's like a subtle landing on the other side of the boat with not too much commotion and trying to, keep their backs to you. And then, like, if you're the boat watching, it's like, kind of murmuring, I got a fish, I got a fish.
Right.
What is that? Is that Is it a carp? And it was pike. And that was a walleye? Is it a walleye? Oh, that's a big walleye. And then you end up sort of drifting 10 feet closer, as you're sort of chipping away at whatever they're doing, because you want to see what they're using, but you're like, how can we be mildly offensive but not to the point where someone's going to say something,
Well, right, and they know that you're getting closer.
Yeah.
They know that you're getting closer. It's very
it's a funny scenario.
It's and I'm like we're both looking at what they're trying to, what are they using? What are those guys using? Why are they so successful? I need to get a little bit closer to see, exactly.
And really, we only had two options with your boat, just because we're lucky to have a river close to us. It seemed like just Pool 2 or the Red Wing Dam. But the Red Wing Dam, like, those rules get thrown out. Everybody's in like a half a mile stretch of the river, and I've had guys just like roll past me 6 feet away,
Yeah.
Literally, like, I could jump in their boats.
Yeah.
And you kind of just, when you're out there, you're just like, this is how it is. Everybody gets to fish. Yeah, this is total chaos. Just don't hook my line. I'll try not to hook your line. But it's like that etiquette at Red Wing has got a different vibe compared with anywhere else.
Right. Right.
And river fishing, too, is different than lake fishing because, river fishing is more defined, even though lakes usually have 4 or 5, great holes. But the rivers give you specific things to, you can see it on a map. You're like, well, this is obvious, especially through an urban area where all the shore is man-made or there's wind dams. But remember when we were leaving, there was 6 or 7 boats just all stacked, not stacked, but probably all 20, 30 yards apart in an area that didn't look like it had any definition at all.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that for a little bit. So when we were talking about, just time on the water, there's no substitute for that. So an example of that is, that guy with that old boat using the Panoptics, he had kind of shared that, that he walleye fishes this stretch a lot. And so talking with him and then seeing how some anglers were fishing like kind of in the middle of the channel, you get a better sense just in those interactions, what you can do the next time you're out, and be more successful.
Right.
And then, so it's basically, it's really about current breaks. And sometimes those current breaks are way far under the water, with wing dams. And so that's my understanding. What those guys fishing more in the channel, they're actually wing dams out there and kind of, making current breaks that you couldn't really see. And we figured that out because, and to their credit, so In-Depth Outdoors, which I think I might be wrong about this, but I think they started as a message board and they grew from there. They're a regional, it was like a regional message board for up here, Minnesota, Wisconsin, like the northern states. And then they grew to doing videos. And I saw, coming off the water that day, I just decided to just Google, Pool 2 walleye fishing. And In-Depth Outdoors has a great video on how to fish this time of year down there on Pool 2. And they go through everything, how to do it. And so just being out there and then just talking with people and seeing how people are fishing, it kind of fires you up,
It lights you up. Like the first thing we do when we get home, and you did this because the texts started coming in, is started researching that pool and how to fish it. And it's amazing how much information is out there nowadays. I mean, when we were growing up back in the 40s, we couldn't go home and then watch a video. You could be sitting on the boat and you can be watching a video of somebody catching a fish in the same spot at the same time of year and how they did it,
Yeah.
That is such a bizarre thing to have access to nowadays. Some of it's, smoke and mirrors. But it is fun. You go home with an attempt and then you do your research, kind of learn more about the body of water. Like we need to learn more about the rules, obviously. We're not breaking any because we're not keeping anything. Right. I'm just curious how they manage it and why they manage it. I don't exactly know why they make that catch and release, if it's a pollution thing or if it's let's just preserve a stretch of water that, has kind of been man-made in a way. There's no backwater through there. I mean, those shorelines are defined by rocks that they've built as flood protection, So it's a different kind of thing, but it is amazing how you can just come home and start going commando on the information, and then you get so fired up by the next day you can't wait to get back out there. And by the way, we're going back out there in 2 days or something, right? 3 days?
Yeah, I'm actually considering going tomorrow, Pete.
You should.
Going loans.
I was just looking at
alone.
the forecast. Tomorrow's 58 with no wind.
Yeah. Yes.
Tuesday's 65, but you know what the bad thing about Wednesday
I can't do Tuesday.
I know, but Wednesday is steady rain. Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like
Thursday?
a miserable. What's that?
Can you do Thursday?
No.
Well, we'll have to figure it out.
Thursday's getting 40s again anyway, but
isn't it funny now? Like 40 is cold. I mean, it just happens so quickly. It's so relative. Where 40, I was waiting for 40.
Yeah. It's like 46, which isn't terrible, but that just feels like a cold front. I'd like to be out there when the things are heating up,
Yeah, well, it's so much of it.
Well, you know what? Like tomorrow might be something that I should do then.
Yeah. Let's go.
I think Wednesday's got a good shot at being a wash. This is what it says. You help me figure this out, and we'll bore our listeners as they help us figure this out. So Wednesday, 51 degrees, showers early, becoming a steady rain later in the day. High of 51, which that's not going to feel like 51, by the way. It'll probably feel like 40,
right.
Winds north-northeast at 10 to 15, which is not fun, especially in that stretch because there's not a lot of protection.
Right. I think Wednesday's out.
Rain,
so
60%.
Yeah.
But Monday, sunshine and clouds mix.
Yeah, I've already been planning for tomorrow.
What's that?
I'm going tomorrow.
So, yeah, I guess you can come pick me up anytime. I have to go and do I could get up really early and have my stuff done by 8 and then probably be at the landing by 9.
Yeah, perfect. That's what we'll do. That's perfect.
I'll make sure there's nothing throwing me off, but I think I could totally do that because from work I'm only 40 minutes from the dock, so to speak.
Tomorrow it is.
This is what's important. This is what's important, though. You need to be in the water and waiting for me. I just want to step into the boat and then leave. Okay?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm going to be there at sun up.
Yeah, I don't want to watch you put the boat in.
Oh, okay. Huh?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
What?
Is this going to be uncomfortable now?
No, it's just fun watching you stress out. I have the same issue, man. And it was funny to me is I'd always be like, wipe your shoes before you get in here, especially when we're Minnesota river fishing. You'd be like, oh, look who's got the fancy boat. I mean, there's nothing worse than river mud in your boat,
It's a good point. I am getting better though. I've got some scratches on there now, and I mean we I'm getting better. I'm getting better. For sure.
Right.
All right. So we're planning on. So tomorrow we're going out. I'm going to get there. I'll put in when the sun's coming up. So,
okay.
And then here's the thing, dude. I feel like we can do the rough fish thing, but I think I have a better handle on the walleye thing. It's just like red wing. You know?
Well, you're going to get your ass handed to you this time of year.
What do you mean?
Don't get too cocky. You better hope those rough fish are ready because those walleye aren't going to be setting up. They're not going to be
full of it. Get out of here. Did you not see that video? That was like they were out in February catching them.
You're totally falling for it. You're totally falling for it.
What are you talking about?
3 days. They probably fished for 3 days and got 2 fish.
Oh, wow. He's called. Okay, so there you heard it. Calling In-Depth Outdoors out. I was just like giving them compliments how great of information it was. They caught a 10-pounder and then an 8-pounder, right? And listen, no one knows the bullshit of television more than I do, okay? But they seem trustworthy, those guys.
I haven't seen the video yet, so.
What are you doing, dude? Watch that video, please, for the love of God.
I mean, do I have to bring my boat so I can rough fish? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. What are we going to do? Yeah, here's the problem with us. It's like, we got to get on the same page, y'all. We can't have you tugging me a rough fish, and then I'm over here wanting to do this fish, and we are not. We're going to have our ass handed to us because we're not focused on the plan at hand. So yes, I guess we probably shouldn't deal with this right now on the pot, or maybe we should. So you're wanting to rough fish, and I'm wanting to catch a freaking 10-pound walleye. So
yeah, which
the last time we went out, we didn't catch a damn rough fish.
Or a walleye, champion.
Okay, well, here's the thing, dude. Where your freaking hot spot blew ass. So what are we going to do?
By the way,
watch that video, please, for the love of God. Watch the video.
But the irony of you wanting to walleye fish so desperately, I cannot tell you. Out of the two of us, I'm the walleye fisherman, by the way. But let me point out, this is how it should go down. This is how it should go down. Hear me out. You start out the day walleye fishing, and at the peak part of the day, part of the problem is there's not enough water in the river. There's not going to be a real spring flood this year. The way things are going, it's a slow burn. You know what I mean?
Here's the problem.
Listen, you have exhaustion on your face. You haven't even heard what I'm going to say. Can I finish? Okay, you start out the day walleye fishing, and then you go take a look to see if the rough fish are there. You know in 30 minutes. If they're there, they're there. If they're not, they're not. And then you blow out if they're not there. Why wouldn't you check?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't tootle over there and say, let's take a look. And if the rough fish are on fire, you could have like a blast for 3 hours with some rough fish.
Okay. So that's fine.
Well, by the way, should we be dropping further up creek? Is that what we're thinking?
So why? If we're gonna target that area, which isn't that far from where, from that ramp. Understand what I'm saying?
Well, I'm saying if you blew that off, but I'm thinking there's no reason to be closer to the dam anyway, because that's not something that's happening.
Okay, watch that video, because they're fishing in the area right where we were.
Right.
So they're fishing February. So it's the same area that we were at.
Are you going to be wrangling up some minnows, or are they just using plastic?
Just using plastics. Just the same Red Wing thing. It's the same exact Red Wing thing that we've done. So in Red Wing, in the wintertime, you just use like a 3/8 ounce. I mean, there's different. It's based on the current. My voice is cracking, Pete.
Oh, mister.
It's based on the current. So as far as like the jig head you use, it's just like if you can get away with a lighter jig head, go for it. But in the video, these guys were using a 3/8 ounce jig head just on a 3.5 inch, one of those rib moxie worms,
Yeah.
And it's just like what you do in Red Wing. You go to the channel, and there's like these, there's these, wing dams that you can't see, underwater. And they're kind of relating those current breaks. And so you drop it down. There's different ways you can do it. You can vertical jig them, or you can just kind of just drag them and just slowly work your way upstream,
right.
And we've done this before. And then it's the same thing in Red Wing. So then night comes, and then you just work shallow and fish current breaks up shallow. And when I left, I left probably around like 8 o'clock after I, got the cover on my boat and everything. And there were a number of trailers still in the parking lot. There was maybe 10 trailers still in the parking lot. They're night fishing.
Detro was out there catfishing. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
They couldn't find them, but they were. So obviously there's catfishermen out there too.
That's Darren Trosif.
And by the way,
Darren Trosif is a regional cat fisherman here. So he's
when you say Red Wing and plastics, my top 5 days at Red Wing have been not using any plastics. It's either been live bait or sonars.
Right. Well, you've been guided. You had a guide, so let's put.
Well, even beyond that, just jigging minnow has been super effective for me. So I'm saying it might be worth it for us to have some minnows.
Right.
Couldn't hurt.
Right. Yeah.
So if that's an option or you have an opportunity to, I don't know if I'll have one.
Yeah.
Snare some fatheads, just like a scoop or two, you know.
Okay, but I want some groundwork. There needs to be some ground rules set into this, okay? Because I've been fishing out of your boat for how many years? 20, or like really for all our childhood. When it really comes down to it.
Yeah, and usually controlling the
now that I
water.
have my own boat, okay, I am the captain of my boat, and ultimately,
you always ruin my Minn Kota and complain for location constantly. It's a full-time job, keeping you happy.
All right. Well, I guess it's just this is how it's always gonna be. Then I'll just have to deal with it, you know. So let's move on. So let's move on. We're 45 minutes into this, and once again we get hung up in the weeds.
We're
hung up in the
roughfishing?
weeds.
Are we going to check for the rough-fish?
Yes, we'll check for the rough-fish.
All right.
We'll check for the rough-fish. If
Thanks, Greg.
that's going on, we'll do that until we sore mouth every single one of them, and then we'll transition if we want to. We'll play it by ear.
Yeah.
Then we'll transition to, trying to, but please, trying to catch some walleye. But please just watch that video.
I will.
Okay, because it's a great kudos to In-Depth Outdoors for making a video that it's in depth. I mean, they really, and I love criticizing, fishing shows and stuff. I mean, we criticize ourselves. We're self-deprecating, but they do a really, really good job breaking down that stretch.
And one more comment about that stretch. Like, I'd love to explore further than we got because we got ice blocked,
Right.
That stretch from downtown Minneapolis to pretty much where we were has the most drop of the Mississippi in any part of the Mississippi all the way to New Orleans. And if you get past that point, the valley gets the deepest it is anywhere. It's like it's a spectacular stretch of the river. So it needs to be gazed upon by us and investigated.
All right, you're saying it's got the biggest drop as you're going upstream to that dam, to the Ford. It's the Ford Dam, right?
Well, from the Ford Dam to St. Paul, there's like 110 feet of drop.
Right. So you got to lock through from Ford to get to the next. Yeah, we definitely need to do that.
If there weren't dams, it's rapids all the way from St. Paul to Minneapolis.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's like an amazing sort of cut stretch of the river. If it was a wild river, it'd be a whole different thing. But I keep seeing things that from Lilydale, which would have been the next bridge up to the Ford Dam, which is where the Minnesota confluence is, there's spectacular fishing all the way through there, But, we can explore whenever we want, but we have a lot to do on that pool. We really do.
Yeah, for sure. So let's move on. I got a few things that I want to just hit upon here. Because I know how time sensitive you are.
I am. I got to get going here.
Yeah,
kids are already thumping up there.
Yeah, see, and it's uncomfortable now. We already had a fight this early in the morning, so everything's uncomfortable. So we're just gonna have to power through this podcast. I'm just kidding. It's not a fight.
I'm not even saying no hard feelings. Like, there's hard feelings.
Okay, yeah. So it's awkward. So it's definitely awkward.
Super
You're
awkward.
mad. I'm mad, and it's just
I've already blocked your image. I can't even look at you.
Yeah, it's super awkward right now. So we're pros. We know how to get through these things. We've been friends for a very long time. This isn't the first awkward interaction we've had. So
fighting about carp. That's what we fight about.
Yeah, there's nothing more important to fight about than rough fish. This isn't coffee in my cup, by the way. So I don't know if I've told you. So I have told you this, Pete. I've told the audience this. Finally, I'm getting around to actually filming some baits underwater. I have a tank over here, a 90-gallon tank, and last night, it's kind of funny. I know I'm kind of late to the game. I'm filming. They're actually ice fishing baits, and we do have a little bit of time. I bought all these like lures to film underwater, and I'm just now, like, my wife is on. She's on a trip, So I'm like, okay,
is she ever home?
Huh?
She's always on vacation, that lady.
So I'm like, I've got some time. So I filmed the first underwater videography last night of baits. and I'm going to get these up pretty quickly. I'm going to try to get a number of them up next week. We still have late ice. This is actually a great time if you're an ice fisherman because the weather's nice and you still have thick enough ice to go out and ice fish. So I bought all these ice fishing baits. I filmed a number of like Berkley's like power bait ice fishing baits, Pete. They're like, first of all, as you know, I'm a huge believer in power bait. I've seen it work. It works. Not only do fish get attracted to it, they hold on to it. It's no gimmick. It's the real deal. But so they've got this line of ice fishing baits, primarily for like I'm talking about like for sunfish and stuff, that are really small and detailed. So I filmed a bunch of them. Like I've made up this contraption so the lures actually stay right in the middle of the tank, you know, and I'm pretty close in on them, and I do different retrieves and everything. So I'm going to be putting those videos up soon. And then I got some more, you know, baits that I want to film, like, you know, I'm always like, there's more and more of these, I guess they're like a jigging wrap. You know what I'm talking about? They're a hard bait, but you use them like
the Rappalas?
Yeah, but they're made for like
they spiral.
Yeah, there's a ton of like different companies making that style of bait now.
Yeah,
you know,
they're really heavy.
Lure.
I was using them for lake trout. They're a good lake trout.
Yeah,
you can use them. You can use them in the non-ice season too. I mean,
right.
They're good vertical jiggers.
Right. So that's what I started doing last night, and I had the thing lit, dude, and I mean it looks pretty cool. I'm kind of curious to see how it's gonna look when I actually start editing and whatnot. But they're just gonna be very simple videos. I'm gonna have like a playlist where the idea is that, oh, you know, I've always wondered what that bait looks like underwater. And so you can go to our playlist and just go kind of find, okay, like the idea is like by a manufacturer. So here are all like Berkley's ice fishing baits. Boom, this is what that particular lure looks like underwater, or that bait looks like underwater. So that's the idea that I've had for that.
That's going to be cool to see though in action, because I've seen the tank and it's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it's been sitting there in the corner, and I've had a filter running to keep it, like the water can kind of get cloudy just whenever you put like new gravel. So I've got a filter running. I got this contraption that keeps the lure right in the center of the tank, and it's ready to go. So it was fun to finally get that thing like going last night. I think you would have been proud of me to see just the whole operation that was happening last night.
Were you fishing it with like an ice rod, or were you just?
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah. It was pretty funny. I mean,
it was our dream come true as children when we used to try and catch fish in your mom's aquarium and get in trouble for it. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now you're actually fishing in an aquarium.
I did kind of think about that actually. How things kind of come around, you know, full circle.
What are you guys doing? It's like we're wet from here to our hand. Nothing.
Right. So, have you heard that we have new sunfish regulations, Pete, in Minnesota?
I've heard, but I don't know the details.
Yeah. So I will bring this up right now, and I need to make sure that I bring up the right sunfish regulation. Where are you? Right here. Yeah, so basically, and this is interesting because you can tell now that there's like kind of a push. Anglers, you know, must be really kind of pressuring the DNR that, you know, like these sunfish populations need to be, you know, and just panfish in general need to be protected to, you know, to grow more trophy size fish. And there's an appreciation for like trophy size bluegill and just panfish just in general now. So
yeah, there's no genetics. They just get cleaned out, you know?
Right. So the new sunfish, and this is thanks to Target Walleye's newsletter, the new sunfish regulations in Minnesota, 44 waters will have a new daily limit of 5 sunfish. 31 waters will have a limit of 10 sunfish. 17 will have a limit of 5 sunfish and 5 crappie, and 2 will have a limit of 10 sunfish and 5 crappies. So it's just kind of nice to see, you and I are, we're catch and release anglers. And it's just nice to see that there is this more of this mentality of like, we fish because we want to catch, large fish. We have an appreciation. We love, just catching fish, period. But it's nice to have more of a chance of catching larger fish no matter what species that you're going after. So just the fact that they're trying to protect, and they appreciate the idea of like trophy panfish fisheries is kind of exciting, So
a couple of things I've noticed in the book this year that make me thrilled. And I don't know, they were discussing eel pout protection, which I thought was fabulous. People throwing a cod on the ice, because I don't even understand what they're thinking. Oh, my God, I got an eel pout. I'm going to let it die on the ice.
I know.
Drives me crazy. But the other thing was, they're trying to get Detro's involved in this, too, trying to get catfishing with 2 lines. It sounds like it works backwards against regulations to be using 2 lines, like on the Minnesota River. But the point here with catfishermen is catfishermen are happy to catch and release with 2 lines. It's a different style of fishing when you're fishing with 2 lines for catfish than it would be for, everything's compared to walleye fishing. So there seems to be some movement there. But then also there's actually, if you look in your book, Drew Geving, that organizes the Roughfish Roundup, him and his brother.
Right. They have the Facebook group, Roughfish group. I can't talk. The Roughfish Facebook group. And then they have roughfish.com.
Right. And he was involved with a write-up. And I don't mean to be the Roughfish representative, but apparently you're a walleye fisherman now, so I'll take that.
Oh, here we go. Dude, get out of town, dude. Seriously.
Hey, don't throw me off here. Hold on. So there's actually like a 2-page write-up in the regulations guide about not throwing rough-fish on shore. Did you see this?
I think I heard. I heard about it from you.
There's just like 3 paragraphs. Well, I didn't realize it. I just saw it a couple days ago. But it doesn't specifically list any regulations. It just points to the fact of, don't kill a fish unless you have plans to use it. Don't kill a fish and throw it on shore. And the term they always use is wonton waste. Have you heard this?
Is wonton, or you mean wonton?
Wonton. I don't know how they say it, but it's wanton waste. They call it, if you do that, it's wanton waste.
Okay.
Which is a bad thing. They're saying it's just funny they use that term because you're like, well, what does that even mean? But it's nice to see they've even mentioned in there, like, hey, you don't need to be killing anything unless you have a purpose for it,
Yeah, what a concept. Don't be an asshole, in other words.
So wanton waste, WANTON, means to intentionally waste something negligently or inappropriately. So I guess that kind of nails it. But they should probably put it in terms that you don't have to Google it,
Right. Yeah,
but it's nice to see. So with the sunfish, it makes sense. Like, who wants to catch 4-inch sunfish all day,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, and especially in the winter, those populations can they're more grouped up and they can just get decimated.
Yeah.
And people want to catch, you're out fishing, you want a chance of catching bigger fish,
Right.
So, I mean, I'm glad to see it.
And if you got, 3 guys in a boat and you all catch 10 fish, you're bringing home 30 fish. I mean, it's not like the end of the world that you have a 10 fish limit,
Yeah,
or 5
sure.
fish for that many. Would you rather have 5 big ones or, 15 tiny ones?
Right.
Take your pick.
So I saw this. This is kind of interesting. I saw this also. This was on the Bass Blaster newsletter. You always got to make sure that you credit, and of course, they're a wonderful resource for us. So check this out. This is from actually a paper. I don't even know if you call it a paper anymore. An online news source here, the Gazette from Stillwater, Oak Park Heights, and Bayport, Lake Elmo. So this is from that area, which is near us. It's basically on the Mississippi River. These are communities on the Mississippi River. They have this Gazette.
St. Croix.
Yeah, so it's Stillwater, Oak Park Heights, Bayport, and Lake Elmo is who this...
I think that's all Croix, right? St. Croix?
Yeah, yep, you're right.
No.
So this is from the Gazette. And 2 years ago, researchers at King's College in London made a somewhat shocking discovery. As part of a study on contaminants of emerging concern, they collected freshwater shrimp from 15 different sites from across Suffolk County. In all 15 locations, they found shrimp with cocaine in their bodies. Researchers from the U.S. Geological Survey made a similarly surprising discovery 10 years earlier in 2009 when they studied fish from 9 major river basins in the United States: the Mississippi, Apalachicola, Colorado, Columbia, Mobile, Pee Rio Grande, Savannah, and Yukon. Roughly 1/3 of the smallmouth bass collected had eggs growing inside their male sexual organs. In fact, the Yukon River was the only basin where researchers did not find at least one intersex fish. Meanwhile,
what's causing intersex fish?
It's coming right up. Meanwhile, the Mississippi River at Lake Pepin had the highest rate of intersex fish in the entire study, with nearly 75% of the male smallmouth bass affected. So Lake Pepin is on the Mississippi River near us. And yeah, so what could explain these strange phenomena? Scientists lay the blame on endocrine disrupting chemicals and pharmaceutical compounds, such as pesticides, medications, and even common household products such as shampoo. Pesticides used on farms and residential lawns can leach into groundwater or runoff into lakes and rivers when it rains. Medications and other pharmaceutical compounds reach our surface and groundwater resources via wastewater from our homes. For example, researchers from the USGS, the National Park Service, St. Cloud State, and University of St. Thomas have found chemicals from antidepressants, pain relievers, and blood pressure medication in the St. Croix River, downstream of municipal wastewater treatment plants. Similarly, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture monitors the presence of pesticides in groundwater at 166 sites around the state and regularly finds atrazine, a common herbicide, in groundwater samples. According to University of California biologist Dr. Tyrone Hayes, atrazine is a potent endocrine disruptor that can feminize male amphibians at very low concentrations, far below the level considered safe by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Yeah. So isn't that something?
So are they saying, you probably can't answer this, but can you pass a drug through your system and then it's still active? Or is that people flushing medication down the drain?
Yeah, that's a great... I kind of get the sense that it's probably still in your waste. You know,
Yeah.
It's probably a combination of both. It's in your waste, and it's in people flushing that stuff down the drain.
Yeah, because if I had, a bunch of oxys, I won't be flushing that stuff.
Well, yeah. Dude, I mean, seriously. Dude, my fentanyl it's staying right in my medicine cabinet. It's not going down a drain.
There's nothing better seeing you behind that boat going full speed with a 200-horse motor when you're just ripped on fentanyl.
I mean, I thought we weren't going to talk. Now we're talking about it. I thought when we started this podcast, we weren't going to talk about my fentanyl problem.
But the crazy part is they're saying 75% of smallies in Pepin are affected. We should have like a giant sort of transgender parade down the middle of Pepin every summer, like a full-on rainbow parade,
Now watch it. We're wading through some dangerous territory right now.
I'm all for it. I don't have any problem with transgender bass. I get the feeling that no matter what, they're still going to have the same, especially if they're coked up. I mean, can you imagine a smallie on coke? That'd be awesome.
There are. I mean, most people think they're already coked out enough.
I mean, Pepin is basically like Studio 54 right now. Everyone's poked up. You know, you can't. There's no real definition of gender. It's fabulous.
I mean, I swear to God, I caught a smallmouth that looked exactly like David Bowie the last time I fished Pepin.
Right. I can't exactly tell what he's up to. I don't know.
Right.
But that's a crazy story. I mean, I knew that was an issue of that stuff going into the water, and but affecting that portion of a specific species is pretty crazy, and that's not going anywhere anytime soon. There's no fixing that. I mean, we're more medicated than ever. You know, absolutely right. I mean, it's that stuff's out of control. So that seems like in the long run, that's going to cause some real issues, you would think. I wonder if it affects like, the spawn. Like, does that, and how can it be 75% are affected? And then how does that not affect their reproduction? You know?
No, it's really, yeah.
It sounds like it would wipe them out. If you have 25, are they saying 25% of the males are available for reproducing? That's a pretty big blow to the population, you know? Or when they're affected, can they still, like, if I had ovaries, I'm going to be less effective as a reproducer, right?
I mean, I don't find, you would definitely not be reproducing if you had ovaries. You're hideous looking.
Right.
You'd be a hideous looking woman.
And by the way, we are not medical doctors. We're approaching this from an ignorant standpoint. So we have no idea.
Which is typically how we approach things.
Right. But if it's affected, I would think that means you're going to have some issues. But I don't know. That's a crazy story. I'm going to look into that more because all of a sudden I'm going to be fishing Pepin all summer. And I want to know I want to know what's going on down there.
I thought that was interesting because this was actually a story that was, what was that, from Bass Blaster? Yeah, that was from Bass Blaster's newsletter, which is a national newsletter, but it was specifically talking in that article about our area, our stretch of the Mississippi River. So and it just shows you how rivers are just collectors. They're just funnels, they just, all of that stuff that's, that we're dumping down the sink, flushing down the toilet. It's just all ends up there.
It's magnified. And especially like if the Mississippi, you go up way above the shoreline and either side of it turns into just strictly agricultural. When you're in the Mississippi, you have this feeling of I'm in the woods, but you get up on the floodplain and black dirt right now. We get some heavy rains in the spring before those, crops go in. Boy, that stuff comes washing in there like it's out of control. And with the tiling picking up speed every year, it's crazy to see what runs off in those creeks and how quickly it can happen in the spring, especially when the ground is frozen and that topsoil just pushes off the frost. I mean, it's hard to watch some days. I see it with my trout creeks, they just get blown out in black, and it's just specifically due to that,
Yeah, for sure. So getting close to wrapping up here, but I wanted to talk about this on the last podcast that we did together, but we didn't have time. But this is so you gotta, since you won't be able to see this when I bring it up on the screen, Pete, just Google in front of you there, just Google RattleBots, BioSpawn RattleBot. So I'm going to bring this up. I mean, so there's a company called BioSpawn, which I'm sorry, I mean that is a hell of a name, man. So they've come out. I'm not sorry. What should I be sorry for? It's a hell of a name. They've come out with a crankbait called a RattleBot. Okay, here it is. If you're watching the video podcast, and remember, only patrons on our Patreon.com account. Patreon, go to patreon.com, Angling Uploaded. Just search Angling Uploaded, become a patron, and you'll be able to see the full video podcast where I am bringing up this BioSpawn RattleBot lure that I got to tell you, it's pretty interesting. So this is a gimmick beyond gimmicks here. And I'm old enough to remember way back in the day, Rebel came out with a crankbait and you might be able to Google this too, Pete, because it's like the same kind of thinking here. Rebel came out with a crankbait called the something star. It was called, what the heck was the name of that thing? It was this futuristic crankbait. And it was called gosh, I can't remember. It was something star crank, I think.
Starfighters?
It's it's something like that. And so this crankbait reminds me of it. It's called a RattleBot. And
Black Star?
Black Star. That's it. The Rebel Black Star. And so Rebel at the time, this was like in the 80s, was saying that this is this advanced crankbait with futuristic, all this stuff. And it looked like something you'd, like if they fished in the movie Tron, that's the lure they'd be using, is this Rebel Black Star. But so that's what
I remember those things. That's right.
Remember that thing? So it looks like a Tron lure, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like a children's toy.
Right. So this RattleBot reminds me, it's the same like over-the-top gimmickry being used here. And it looks like, there it is. Yeah, let me bring that up, Pete. So this is, oops, let's take this off. Yeah, so you can see it right there. Pete's brought it up. That is a Rebel Black Star crankbait. And so that was like the first futuristic crankbait, like attempt. I don't know that anybody actually caught a fish on that thing. I'm sure they did, but it was Rebels like, okay, this is the future, man.
Yeah.
And so that's what this look at this thing. I mean, it's like, okay, so I guess they're trying to make it look like it's some kind of futuristic crayfish or something. It's
right.
got all.
I don't get. They seem to be. I keep looking for what makes it different than any other lure, and it seems to be just the marketing.
Right. It says declassified RattleBot.
Right. They've got like FBI files on each one. But like, what do they mean when they say genetically engineered? I don't think there's a real.
I mean, come on.
I don't think that's a real thing, right? They're saying that the profile unnaturally stimulates the predatory instincts of the subject.
Right. Right. I mean,
Micropteris salmonides.
Yeah, so that's a largemouth.
Yeah,
that's the
the RattleBot craw has anatomically correct crawfish imitator, like every crawfish lure that's pretty much ever been put out, right? Appropriately facing eye to match the look of a natural crawfish. Okay. And a single BB emits a deep thumping noise.
If you see what these look like, right? Does that look like a crayfish to you?
Well, they've got plastics too. No, it looks like a rattle wrap, right? Is that the one you're looking at?
The one I'm looking at that's supposed to be a crayfish.
This is the one I'm looking at.
Let me bring that up. One second here. Stand by.
And it looks as though
that's what I'm looking at.
Somebody spilled some paint all
That's supposed to make you want to buy it. It's super
which
sexy,
is unfortunate.
Artsy. Yeah, does that look like a crayfish to you?
No.
Yeah,
no, but it's unnaturally stimulating me, I can tell you that.
So what else are you seeing there? So color, okay, so this is from
$8.50.
Yeah, this is from the Target Walleye. I think I got this from Target Walleye I think this is Target Walleye or the Bass Blaster newsletter. Okay, so they asked why the BioSpawn RattleBots look the way they do. So it's got like these cutouts in it, and it says color on most lipless cranks is only skin deep. Same canvas and various color ways are just thrown on there. Not with these genetically engineered cranks. I mean, the bullshit that's just being spewed here is just remarkable.
And by the way, I'm seeing about 15 or 20 versions of that, at least color styles, and every one of them is out of stock.
Yeah, exactly. It's working. The unique body panels and plating of the RattleBot gives them a depth and dimensionality not present in the lipless market. Colors here play with light and shadow like no others. creating an added element of interest and intrigue to draw out that tentative bass.
I kind of see what their point is with that.
This is a whole nother level here. We've developed 2 unique body styles to further tie these colors to the body forms and paired them with rattles that best fit those natural forage. Small multi-BB rattles in the baitfish for a high-pitched constant rattle and a low-pitched single knocker for the craw. You know, because craws are constantly knocking.
Right. I see their point where it's almost like a stealth fighter. There's not like, a rattle wrap is a smooth, flat finish. And this one has sort of various, like they called it plates. Is that what they said? Armoring, where it's got like a bunch of different angles on there. Which kind of I could see kicking up a little more reflectiveness, but, this is all whatever.
This is
$8.50. But I do kind of like the marketing, it makes you feel like you're doing something important. You're looking over the FBI files of these various crankbaits. And I like when they call a fish a subject. So I'm not completely opposed to all of this, but yeah, the marketing is out of control on this one. It's hilarious and fascinating at the same time.
It's like America's Most Wanted crankbait or something.
Yeah,
but
does America want that one?
So is that the craw? It's a chartreuse. How many chartreuse craws have you seen, Pete? Chartreuse like blueback. This is a genetically engineered crankbait to match I guess that's supposed to match a crayfish that's chartreuse with a blue back. So
yeah, this is the same one that was red. It's just a different color.
I see. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm calling bullshit on this one. Gonna call bullshit on that one.
Send us some lures, BioSpawn. Prove us wrong.
Yeah. We'll do a test. And I just saw a video recently on YouTube by a guy from North Dakota that we've kind of followed a little bit. We've watched some of his videos, Pete. He does some ice fishing videos. Does a lot of like smallmouth videos up there. He has a video up where he's fishing with a yellow duck lure. Okay. It's got, ready for this? 7.2 million views. He put up 11 months ago, 7.2 million views fishing with a yellow duck lure for northern pike. So, yeah, BioSpawn, that's the name of the company. BioSpawn, send us some RattleBot crankbaits so that we can do a video about it and maybe get 7.2 million views.
They got some pretty good looking plastics, It's just like, is the only thing that makes you different your marketing? That's the question.
That's what it kind of feels like to me.
So you charge a little bit more because you paid an ad agency.
That's right. Now you're on the right track.
Mm-hmm. That's how it works in the grocery business.
Yeah. So that's what I think's going on here. So, well, let's close it out on this, Pete. We've got a new patron. We are climbing the patron ladder. Everybody who's a patron of Angling Uploaded, thank you. Our new patron is Brandon Sheffield. So Brandon, much appreciated supporting what we're doing here on another fishing podcast, another fishing show, Angling Uploaded. So what we're going to do, for our podcast, to see the video podcast, to see the full video podcast, we're only offering that to our patrons. So we're also going to be doing giveaways exclusive to our Patreon account. And then a number of other benefits where I put content up there. That's where it goes first, sometimes days before we put it anywhere else. So another added benefit. We don't we don't have tiers of payments. It's just whatever you feel is the value you're getting from our content, what you can afford. Just that's all we expect of our patrons. So
we do appreciate it, though. It's helping our train go down the tracks here. So
yeah, exactly. So it's definitely the first time we've actually made any money from this, Pete.
Right, I know.
Yeah,
and we can reinvest.
So yeah, so Brandon, much thanks, Brandon Sheffield. And again, if you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com and search Angling Uploaded. So Pete, any parting words?
Not parting words. I'm going to try and fish tomorrow. I'll see what I can pull off.
Okay, and I will say this. Definitely, I'm all about rough fishing. And if we catch the hell out of them, we can continue rough fishing. If we're not catching them, walleye fishing?
Yes. I don't think there's enough water to catch the rough fish. I didn't finish that point. Because of the lack of a spring rush, I don't think our spots are going to be deep enough. So it'll be worth a look. But either way, I'm just going to be happy. Trust me, I'm going to be happy fishing walleye all day. So no worries there.
All right. Sounds good. And we will see you and hear you. You will see us and hear us. Podcast number 11 next week. So thanks, guys.
Don't leave your crawlers in the sun.
What? Yeah. Start saying that again. Do it, Pete.
I forgot I had a catchphrase. My catchphrase is, hey, ladies and gentlemen, don't leave your crawlers in the sun, and we'll see you next week.